I smoothed the folds of my navy blue dress, running my hands over invisible wrinkles. Funny, isn't it, how we fuss over the little things? This dress, simple, neat, not too flashy, always felt just right for family dinners. Not so fancy that. Marissa would roll her eyes, but not so plain that I'd look like I'd given up. At 77, I'd long since stopped chasing trends, but I still like to look put together. Garrett said dinner would start at 7. I still had an hour. The living room was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of the evening. Everywhere I looked, memories stared back at me. There was a photo of James and me at our golden wedding anniversary, his arm around my shoulder, both of us laughing. Little Garrett, beaming, holding up his first fish. Toby and Rebecca, all grown up in their graduation gowns. These pictures, silent witnesses to a time when life felt simpler. Or maybe I was just younger. My gaze lingered on James's picture. What would he do now? 15 years gone, and I still found myself asking him for advice. "Edith, don't let yourself get hurt," he'd say. James always knew how to set boundaries, even with Garrett. Me? I never quite learned. The phone buzzed, breaking the silence. A message from Garrett. I reached for my glasses, heart fluttering with hope. Maybe he was checking if I needed help getting to their new place. He hadn't offered in years, but maybe tonight would be different. "Mom, I'm sorry, but we can't make it tonight. Marissa is hosting a dinner for her co-workers. We'll reschedule." I stared at the screen. That didn't make sense. Garrett had called just yesterday, insisting I be there. He'd said there was a special announcement. I read the message again, confusion prickling at the back of my mind. Then, another vibration. Another message. "You weren't invited to dinner." "My wife doesn't want you there." My hand trembled. My heart clenched, cold and tight, as if someone had wrapped icy fingers around it. No, it couldn't be from Garrett, not my son. But there it was, his name, his number. I sank into my chair, still clutching the phone. If I let go, would I lose my last grip on reality? Memories flashed. Little Garrett, clinging to my skirt on his first day of kindergarten. Teenage Garrett awkwardly asking for advice about girls. Grown-up Garrett introducing Marissa, his face lit up with happiness. And now ... this. A message so cold, so final. Was this sudden? Or had they been talking about me behind closed doors for years? How many smiles were fake? How many invitations were just obligations? My eyes fell on a glossy brochure for River Ridge Estates, their new home. A 3-story townhouse overlooking the river with a private dock. The house I'd helped pay for. $120,000 6 months ago. "Mom, it's an investment in the future," Garrett had said. "A place for family gatherings. Your corner will be there too." My corner, I almost laughed. Apparently, that corner had just vanished. I remembered signing the paperwork at the bank. The manager's eyebrows had shot up. "Are you sure, Mrs. Wembley? It's a substantial sum." I was sure. James had left me enough to help our son. It felt right. There were other investments too: a new car for Garrett, private school for Toby, a kitchen remodel for Marissa. Each time I pulled out my checkbook. Each time it felt like the right thing to do. And what did I get in return? Rare phone calls, formal visits on holidays. And now this. I stood, legs heavy, and walked to the secretary desk I'd inherited from my mother. The top right drawer, my fortress of order. Folders, receipts, bank statements. The folder labeled Garrett was the thickest. I opened it, flipping through. The evidence of a lifetime of giving. A check for $20,000 seed money for a business Garrett abandoned. Receipts for Marissa's courses. Bills for roof repairs, car insurance for Toby. How many times had I helped, supported, rescued? And for what? To be barred from the doorstep of a house I'd paid for? The phone buzzed again. I flinched. But this time, it was Rebecca, my granddaughter. "Grandma, are you coming over today? I miss you." My hand hovered over the keyboard. Rebecca was different. Sincere. She always made time for me, even when her parents forgot I existed. I typed slowly. "Honey, it looks like your parents have decided it's best for me to stay home." A few seconds later, "What? Why?" "Daddy said yesterday that you absolutely had to be there, so Rebecca didn't know." I pictured her standing in that new house, my house, confused. My gaze fell back to the folder. All these years, I thought, I was buying my family's love and respect. But I was only renting their time and attention, and the lease had just expired. I sat there, the silence pressing in, the weight of years settling on my shoulders. How many times had I opened that folder, each slip of paper a quiet testament to love, or was it obligation? I'd always told myself it was the right thing to do, but now, staring at the evidence, I wondered, had I been generous or just afraid of being alone? The phone was still in my hand when it buzzed again. I flinched, bracing myself for another blow. But this time, it was a different name, Rebecca, my granddaughter. The one bright thread in a tapestry that felt like it was unraveling. "Grandma, are you coming over today? I miss you." My heart squeezed. Rebecca, always so sincere, so present, even when the rest of the family seemed to forget I existed. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the keys. What could I say? The truth, I decided. For once, just the truth. "Honey, it looks like your parents have decided it's best for me to stay home." Seconds later, her reply. "What? Why?" Daddy said. "Yesterday that you absolutely had to be there." So she didn't know. I pictured her standing in that new house, my house, confused, maybe hurt. Did she feel as out of place as I did? Did she ever wonder why love sometimes felt like a transaction? My gaze drifted back to the folder. All these years, I thought, I was buying my family's love and respect. But I was only renting their time and attention, and the lease had just expired. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. The room felt colder, emptier. For a moment, I let myself grieve, not just for the dinner I'd missed, but for all the years I'd spent trying to earn a place at a table I'd already paid for. But then, something inside me shifted. A spark. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was freedom. Maybe, just maybe, it was the first flicker of self-respect I'd felt in years. What would you do if you realized your kindness had become your cage? Would you keep giving, hoping for scraps of affection? Or would you finally stand up, dust off your dignity, and say, "No more"? Tonight, I was done waiting for an invitation. Tonight, I was ready to write my own story. I stood up, legs unsteady, and walked to the secretary desk, my little island of order in a sea of chaos. The top right drawer slid open with a familiar creak. Inside, folders, receipts, bank statements. The folder marked Garrett was the thickest of all. I pulled it out, the weight of it heavy in my hands. One by one, I flipped through the pages. A check for $20,000, Garrett's business venture, abandoned after 6 months. Receipts for Marissa's continuing education. Bills for roof repairs, car insurance for Toby. Each slip of paper, a memory. Each memory, a question. How many times had I helped, supported, rescued? And for what? To be shut out of the very house I'd paid for? The phone buzzed again. I jumped, heart pounding, but it wasn't Garrett. It was Rebecca, my granddaughter, the only one who still reached out with warmth instead of expectation. Grandma, you coming over today? I miss you. I stared at her message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Rebecca was different. She called just to talk. She visited just to see me. Even when her parents forgot I existed, she remembered. I typed slowly, the truth heavy in every word. Honey, it looks like your parents have decided it's best for me to stay home. Her reply came quickly. What? Why? Daddy said yesterday that you absolutely had to be there, so she didn't know. I pictured her standing in that new house, my house, confused, maybe hurt. Did she feel as out of place as I did? My gaze fell back to the folder. All these years, I thought I was buying my family's love and respect, but I was only renting their time and attention. And the lease had just expired. I closed the folder, a strange calm settling over me. For the first time in years, I wondered, what if I stopped paying? What if I stopped waiting for love to be earned and simply started living for myself? What would you do if you realized your kindness had become your prison? Tonight, I was ready to find out. I sat there, the folder heavy in my lap, the silence in the house suddenly deafening. For years, I'd measured my worth in checks written and problems solved. But now, with every memory and every receipt, I felt something inside me shift to slow, simmering resolve. The phone was still in my hand. I stared at it, heart pounding. What if I just stopped? What if I took back control right now? Before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed the bank. The line rang, each tone echoing in my chest. Finally, a polite voice answered, "Good evening, Fateville Community Bank. How may I help you?" I took a breath, steadying my voice. "Good evening. My name is Edith Wembley. I'd like to consult about some regular payments from my account." "Of course, Mrs. Wembley. I'll need to ask a few questions to confirm your identity." As she went through the motions, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, I felt a plan forming, clear and sharp. For the first time in years, I wasn't acting out of fear or habit. I was acting for me. "Thank you for the confirmation. Mrs. Wembley, what exactly can I do for you?" "I'd like to cancel all automatic payments and transfers from all my accounts." "Every single one." There was a pause. "All payments, Mrs. Wembley?" "You have quite a few." "Yes, all of them. And I also need to revoke the power of attorney I gave to my son, Garrett Wembley." I could hear the confusion in her voice. "This is a major change, Mrs. Wembley. Perhaps you should come down to the branch for a more detailed. I'll come down tomorrow morning and sign the necessary documents, I interrupted, my voice firmer than I expected. But I need the process to start today. Is that possible? Another pause. Yes, we can temporarily suspend all payments until your visit, but we'll need your signature for a full reversal. Oh, that's great. Suspend everything right now. As she typed, I looked at James's picture on the mantel. You were right, honey, I thought. You can't let people sit on your neck, even if they're your own children. Ready, Mrs. Wembley. Temporary suspension activated. You have a total of, she paused, surprised, 174 regular payments and transfers, all of which are blocked until your visit to the branch. 174. I had no idea there were so many. 174 ways I'd supported my son and his family. Thank you. I'll be there tomorrow when it opens. I hung up, and for the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was as if a heavy backpack I'd carried for decades had finally slipped from my shoulders. The phone vibrated again. Garrett, no doubt. I didn't answer. Instead, I typed a message, my finger hovering over the send button. Then pay your own way. Hey, freeloaders. Was I ready to turn the page? To destroy the fragile peace I'd held together with money and patience? But hadn't they been the first to destroy it by denying me even basic respect? I pressed send. Then I turned off the phone. In the quiet of my living room, I felt a calm I hadn't known in years. For the first time, I'd done something not for my son, not for his family, but for me, and it was liberating. That night, I barely slept. But for once, it wasn't worry that kept me awake, it was anticipation. I felt lighter, as if I'd finally set down a burden I'd carried for far too long. When morning came, I dressed simply, made myself a cup of tea, and left the house 20 minutes before the bank opened. The air was crisp, the world quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't need a sleeping pill to get through the night. Determination was enough. When the doors finally opened, I was the first customer inside. Linda Howard, the bank manager, greeted me with a warm, familiar smile. She'd known James and me for decades. Edith, it's good to see you, she said, shaking my hand. I was informed about your call yesterday. All 174 payments have been suspended as you requested. Is something wrong? I looked her straight in the eye. I want to cancel them all, forever, and cut off Garrett's access to my accounts. In the quiet of my living room, I felt a calm I hadn't known in years. For the first time, I'd done something not for my son, not for his family, but for me, and it was liberating. That night, I barely slept. But for once, it wasn't worry that kept me awake, it was anticipation. I felt lighter, as if I'd finally set down a burden I'd carried for far too long. When morning came, I dressed simply, made myself a cup of tea, and left the house 20 minutes before the bank opened. The air was crisp, the world quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't need a sleeping pill to get through the night. Determination was enough. When the doors finally opened, I was the first customer inside. Linda Howard, the bank manager, greeted me with a warm, familiar smile. She'd known James and me for decades. Edith, it's good to see you, she said, shaking my hand. I was informed about your call yesterday. All 174 payments have been suspended as you requested. Is something wrong? I looked her straight in the eye. I want to cancel them all, forever, and cut off Garrett's access to my accounts. Linda took off her glasses, wiping them with a tissue, a gesture I remembered from years past, whenever she was thinking hard. Edith, are you sure? It's a rather radical decision. I'm absolutely sure. She nodded, started typing. That's good. I'll prepare all the necessary documents. It will take some time. You do have a lot of automatic payments. While the system worked, Linda handed me a thick folder. Here are printouts of all your regular transactions for the last year. It might help you make sure you don't miss anything. I opened the folder. Page after page, line after line, money flowing out of my pocket into my family's. The first receipt, the monthly mortgage payment for Garrett and Marissa's new house. $3,800. I remembered the day Garrett brought me to see it. Mom, this is the perfect place for our family and for you. There's a guest room with a private bath on the first floor. You won't have to climb the stairs. A guest room I never slept in. A house I was now unwelcome in. The next receipt, insurance on Marissa's car. A premium SUV, necessary for work, she'd said. $850 every quarter. Country club dues. Private dental bills for Toby. Rebecca's college tuition. The only money I didn't regret. Each receipt brought back a memory, a request, sometimes even tears. Mom, we're so tight on funds right now. Grandma, this is the latest model. Without it, I'll be a white crow. Edith, you don't want your grandson to suffer from complexes, do you? Receipt after receipt, page after page. A map of my naivety and their greed. Linda's voice brought me back. Here's the paperwork to cancel all payments. And the power of attorney revocation form. Please read. And sign if you agree. I took the pen and signed without hesitation. Edith, Linda said softly, if you need any help, any advice, it's all right, Linda. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Everything is really okay. Walking out of the bank, I felt lighter, as if I'd finally shed an invisible weight that had been dragging me down for years. My next stop was my lawyer's office. Francis Whitaker had been with our family since James was alive. His beard was grayer, his glasses thicker, but the spark in his eyes was the same. Mrs. Wembley, what a pleasant surprise. What can I do for you? I want to change my will, I said, calm and confident, and set up a lifetime trust to protect my assets. Francis raised an eyebrow. May I ask what prompted this decision? Family circumstances have changed, I replied, not wanting to go into details. I need to know how I can legally and safely manage my finances without interference from my son or his family. He nodded, no more questions. For the next hour, we discussed trusts, powers of attorney, and the legal intricacies of protecting what was mine. For the first time, I felt free to make decisions for myself. When we finished, Francis asked, should I have the paperwork ready by the end of the week? The sooner, the better, I replied, and Francis, thank you. He smiled. You know, Edith, James always said you were stronger than you looked. I'm glad to see he was right. I left the office with a slight smile. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. There was a surprise waiting for me when I got home. Rebecca was sitting on the porch, arms wrapped around her knees, her face tight with worry. She jumped up the moment she saw my car. "Grandma!" She rushed over, grabbing a grocery bag from my hand. "I've been calling all day. Why didn't you answer?" I looked at her, really looked. Rebecca had always reminded me of myself at her age. The same brown hair, the same stubborn wrinkle between her brows when she was anxious. "I've had a busy day, dear," I said gently, opening the door. "Come in and tell me what's happened." We settled in the kitchen. Rebecca sat at the table, tapping her fingers nervously while I put away the groceries. "Grandma, what's going on?" "Dad's in a panic. He says you've blocked all payments and won't answer your phone." I calmly filled the kettle. "It's true. I've decided to cut off your family's financial support." "But why?" Her voice was small, bewildered. "Did something happen?" I poured water into the kettle, letting the silence stretch. "Your father canceled my invitation to dinner last night. Said your mother didn't want me there." Rebecca turned pale. "What? No way. Dad's been saying all week how important it was that you come." I handed her my phone, showing her the message. She covered her mouth, eyes filling with tears. "Oh my God, I didn't know. I swear." I set a cup of tea in front of her. "That was the last straw, Rebecca. For years, I've paid for everything from your house to Toby's tennis lessons. And all that time, I felt like I was being used. Yesterday, I got confirmation." Rebecca stared into her cup, silent. Then she looked up, her voice trembling. "You know, I've always seen it. How they, take advantage of your kindness. Especially Mom." I tried to talk to Dad, but he always defended her. I nodded. Deep down, I'd always known Rebecca understood more than she let on. "What's going to happen now?" she asked quietly. "I mean, they have a lot of payments to make. Loans ... They'll have to manage on their own." I shrugged. "They're adults with good jobs. Garrett's a building inspector. Your mother's a successful realtor. They'll be fine." The phone rang again. "Garrett." I muted it. "Aren't you going to answer?" Rebecca asked. "Not today." I shook my head. "I need time to collect my thoughts. And he needs time to realize the consequences of what he's done." Rebecca looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, Grandma, I've never seen you so determined." I managed a weak smile. "I haven't seen myself like this in a long time." We finished our tea in a cozy silence. When Rebecca was about to leave, she hugged me tighter than usual. "Are you sure you're okay? You don't want me to stay?" "I'm perfectly fine, dear." I stroked her cheek. "Go on, and don't worry about me." She nodded but paused. At the door, "I'm not taking sides in this conflict, Grandma. You understand that, don't you?" "Of course I do," I smiled. "This is between me and your parents. It has nothing to do with you." After Rebecca left, the house fell silent again. I checked the mail. There was a notice of a failed charge on Toby's credit card. That fast. Apparently, my grandson was living up to his credit limit. I set the letter aside and sat in my favorite chair by the window. My phone kept vibrating with messages and calls, but I ignored them. Instead, I pulled out an old photo album and opened it to a random page, a picture from 20 years ago. Me and James, young Garrett and Marissa, little Toby and Rebecca on a picnic. Everyone smiling. When did things change? When did support become an obligation? When did love turn into an expectation of financial assistance? I closed the album and walked over to the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me looked tired, but there was something new in her eyes, a determination I hadn't seen in years. Time to remember who you are. Edith Wembley. The ringing of the doorbell jolted me from my thoughts. My heart skipped. Was it Garrett, come to plead his case? I peered through the peephole. Not Garrett. Lorene Campbell, my oldest friend, stood on the porch, a basket in her hands and concern etched on her face. Edith. She hugged me the moment I opened the door. I called, but you didn't answer. I thought I'd better check on you. Come in, Lorene. I managed a smile. Sorry, I turned my phone off. Just a little family emergency. She set the basket on the table, homemade cookies and a jar of jam. Family problems? She gave me a knowing look. Marissa again? Lorene had never hidden her opinion of my daughter-in-law. Predator, she'd called her more than once. Garrett this time, I said, and briefly recounted the messages. The dinner, my decision. Lorene listened without interrupting. When I finished, she squeezed my hand. At last! She exclaimed. Relief in her voice so genuine I couldn't help but smile. I'm sorry, Edith, but I've watched them take advantage of you for years. How many times I wanted to say enough, but it wasn't my place. I know, I sighed. You were right all along. I just didn't want to see it, so what now? Lorene poured us tea, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and pride. Garrett must be panicking by now. Let him panic. I shrugged, surprising myself with the calm in my voice. I need time to sort out my feelings, and they need time to realize what they've lost. We talked for hours, the way only old friends can. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a mother or a grandmother, but just a woman talking to someone who truly cared. By the time Lorene left, the sky was dark. I finally checked my phone. 37 missed calls, 23 messages. I scrolled through them, wrinkling my nose at the tone. Desperate, demanding, indignant. Mom, what's going on? Why isn't the mortgage payment going through? Edith, it's Marissa. We need to talk. It's urgent. Grandma, my card's been blocked. I'm stuck in town with no money. The last text from Garrett came just 10 minutes ago. Mom, I'm on my way to see you. We need to talk. My muscles tensed. Was I ready for this confrontation? There didn't seem to be a choice. I turned off the living room light and walked to the kitchen, putting the kettle on. I took out my best cup, the one I only used on special occasions. Today was a special occasion. The day Edith Wembley finally said no. I heard the sound of a car pulling up and looked out the window. Garrett, alone. No Marissa. That was unusual. She usually controlled all the important conversations. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and went to open the door. Garrett stood on the doorstep, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes a mix of irritation and panic. I stepped aside, silent, letting him in. Mom, what's going on? He didn't waste time with pleasantries. All the payments have been rejected. The bank says you've revoked all the authorizations. We can't pay the mortgage. I walked into the kitchen, the kettle already boiling. Do you want tea? I asked, calm. What tea? Garrett threw up his hands in despair. Do you realize what's happening? The bank called about the late payment. Marissa is hysterical. I poured boiling water into the teapot and turned to face him. I understand. I have canceled all financial obligations to your family, all 174 payments. I have no intention of resuming them. Garrett froze, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. What? Why? He slumped into a chair, eyes fixed on me. Is this some kind of joke? You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. I quoted his message, watching his face change. That was a message from you, Garrett, not a joke. And my response isn't a joke either. He went pale, lowering his head. It's not what you think, he started, but I cut him off. What am I supposed to think? That my own son kicked me out of the house I paid for? That my daughter-in-law doesn't want me at their table, even though I fund their lifestyle? I set a cup of tea in front of him, but he didn't touch it. Mom, it was stupid. I admit it. I shouldn't have written it. Marissa was upset and you decided to make her happy by insulting your mother, I finished for him. That's very sweet, Garrett. Mom, please, he pleaded. We can't do this without your help. We have a mortgage, loans, Toby has to pay for college. I took a sip of tea, letting the anger I'd held back for years finally surface. Didn't you think about that when you denied me even basic respect? When Marissa criticized my clothes? When Toby missed my birthdays? When you didn't call me on the anniversary of your father's death? Garrett looked ashamed, but I saw a flicker of irritation in his eyes. He was always a bad actor. Mom, we appreciate everything you do for us. We do. It's just that sometimes there are misunderstandings. We all love you. Even Marissa, even though she doesn't always show it. I looked at my son, a grown man, a father of two, who now looked like a little boy caught stealing cookies. Garrett, I don't believe you, I said quietly. I don't believe you love me. You love my money, my help, my willingness to solve your problems, but you don't love me. That's not true. He jumped up, voice rising. How can you say that? Because it's true. I remained seated, calm. When was the last time you asked me how I was feeling, inquired about my life, invited me over for no reason, not when you needed money or help with the kids? Garrett opened his mouth, but no words came. Your father always said you can't buy love. I didn't listen. I thought if I was generous enough, helpful enough, you'd appreciate me. I was wrong. Mom, Garrett took a step toward me. I understand you're upset. Why don't you let Marissa and me come over this weekend, talk things over calmly? No. I shook my head. I don't need to. My decision is final. But how are we going to pay for the house? The cars? Toby's tuition? You have a good job, Garrett. So does Marissa. You're adults. You can handle it. He clenched his fists, irritation turning to anger. You can't do this to us. After everything you what? I stood up too, meeting his gaze. What have you done for me, Garrett? Name one thing you've done for me, unselfishly, expecting nothing in return. He was silent, searching his memory for an example. His silence said more than words ever could. You see, I sighed. You can't even think of one example. It's not fair, he muttered, taking a step back. You're embarrassing me." I grinned, a bitter edge to my smile. "What kind of embarrassment did you put me in by turning me away from a house and a family dinner?" Garrett ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from his teenage years when he was nervous. "It was a mistake, Mom. I've already apologized." "What do you want me to do, get on my knees?" "I want you to leave," I replied, my voice quiet but firm. "I need time to think things over. When I'm ready to talk, I'll let you know. But for now, go away, Garrett, please." He stared at me, disbelief in his eyes. Then, silently, he turned and walked out. I heard the front door slam, then the roar of his car as he pulled away. Only when the sound faded did I let myself sit down and exhale. My hands were shaking. Confronting my son was harder than I'd expected. Part of me, the old, familiar part, wanted to run after him, to promise I'd give it all back just so he wouldn't be angry. But IDN single quotes T. Instead, I finished my cooled tea and started washing the dishes, letting the simple rhythm calm my mind. The phone rang again, Marissa's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring, unwilling to hear another plea or accusation. A minute later, a message arrived. "Edith, we need to talk. Garrett told me about your conversation. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Let's talk things out like adults." I almost laughed. Like adults, Marissa's favorite phrase, always used when she wanted to sound superior, to take control. I didn't respond. The next morning began with a visit from Francis Whitaker, my attorney. He arrived early, a stack of papers in hand and a reassuring smile on his face. "It's all ready, Edith," he said, laying the documents out on the table. "The bulk of your estate goes into an irrevocable trust, with you as the sole beneficiary during your lifetime. Upon your death, the assets are distributed as you instructed, 40% to Rebecca, 10% to the library charity, the rest at your discretion. Garrett and Toby receive the minimum shares required by law. Marissa receives nothing." I nodded, reading each page carefully. My hand was steady as I signed. Francis watched me, a hint of pride in his eyes. "You know, Edith, in 30 years of practice, I've rarely seen such decisive changes. Most people hesitate, doubt." "I've hesitated enough already, Francis," I said, signing the last page. "For years." He gathered the papers. "I'll file them today and send you copies within the week. And Edith, if you need legal help with any possible conflicts, I'm always at your service." After Francis left, I decided to take a walk. The day was clear, the air fresh. I wandered to the park where James and I used to go on weekends. I sat on a bench, watching children play, parents laugh, a young woman helping her son build a sandcastle. I remembered doing the same with Garrett years ago. When had we lost that simple joy? My phone rang, Toby's number. I hesitated, then answered. "Grandma?" His voice was tense. "Is it true? Did you cancel all the payments?" "Yes, Toby, it's true. But why?" He sounded genuinely puzzled. "What happened?" "Dad said something about a misunderstanding, about you being offended by a message." I sighed. "Toby, you're 23. You work for an insurance company. Why are you still dependent on my money?" He hesitated. "I don't know. I guess I'm just used to it. You've always been there for me." "Exactly. You all took my help for granted." Never wondered how I felt when your father told me I wasn't welcome in the house I was paying for. There was silence. Then, quietly, did Dad really write that? Yes, and that was the last straw. For years, I supported your family, paid for your house, your cars, your education, even your tennis club. And what did I get in return? Disrespect, neglect, formal visits on holidays. Grandma, he stammered. I'm not angry, Toby. I'm just done. Now you have to deal with things on your own, like all adults do. But Grandma, I have to go, Toby. Think about what I said and how you've all treated me over the years. I ended the call and sat for a while, watching the park. Talking to Toby left me with a strange feeling, a mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for what our relationship had become. Relief that I'd finally spoken the truth. That evening, I read a book I'd been putting off for years. Before bed, I checked my phone. More missed calls from Garrett and Marissa. A message from Rebecca. Grandma, our house is in chaos. My parents are fighting. Toby is in a panic about money. Are you okay? Can I come over tomorrow? I replied, yes, dear. I'd love to see you. I'm perfectly fine. The next morning brought an unexpected surprise. Marissa was standing on my doorstep, impeccably dressed, her hair perfectly styled, a box of expensive pastries in her hands and a strange, practiced smile on her face. Edith, good morning. She handed me the box. May I come in? We need to talk. I let her in, silently wondering what strategy she'd chosen this time. Marissa walked into the living room, giving me that appraising look that always made my hands go cold. She perched on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap. Edith, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I sat across from her, not offering tea or coffee. Really? Garrett shouldn't have sent that message, she said, shaking her head with a look of regret. It was an emotional reaction. We were stressed about work, planning dinner. I interrupted her. Let's not waste time, Marissa. You're not here to apologize. You're here for the money. Her smile faltered just for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Edith, it's not fair. I'm truly sorry for what happened. We all appreciate your help and support. You are an important part of our family. So important that you didn't want me at your table? I asked, my voice calm, almost gentle. Marissa sighed, as if explaining something to a stubborn child. That night was special. We had important guests, potential clients. I wanted everything to go perfectly. You know how important this is to my career, and I would ruin it? I raised an eyebrow. With my old-fashioned clothes? Inappropriate comments? That's not what I meant. She pursed her lips. Edith, let's be honest. You and I have always had a complicated relationship, but that's no reason to destroy the whole family. Garrett's desperate. Toby can't pay his bills. We're in danger of losing the house. The house I paid for, I reminded her. Which you helped pay for, she corrected quickly. We put up a lot of money too. I looked at her, this woman who had been part of my family for 25 years, but never truly felt like family. Marissa, I will no longer finance your life. Not the house, not the cars, not Toby's education. Nothing. This is my final decision. Her face changed. The mask of friendliness slipped, revealing the cold calculation beneath. You can't do this to us, she said, her voice hardening. After all we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Marissa? I asked, genuinely curious. She stammered, unprepared for the question. We included you in our family, allowed you to be part of your grandchildren's lives, took care of you, took care of me? I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. When was the last time you asked how I was feeling? When you called just to talk, not to ask for money? Marissa stood, her face pale with anger. You're going to regret this, Edith. We're the only family you have. Who will take care of you when you're too old to live on your own? I'll take care of myself, I said, rising to meet her gaze. Just like I did all my life before I started spending all my energy and money on your family. She headed for the door, but stopped on the threshold. This isn't over. Edith, Garrett won't leave it alone. You're his mother. He has rights. Rights to what, Marissa? My money? I shook my head. Go, and don't come back until you learn some basic respect. After Marissa left, I felt strangely empty. It was as if the final scene of a long play had ended, the curtain fallen, the actors dispersed. I went to the window. The day was clear, sunny. Life went on, neighbors working in their gardens, children riding bikes, the mail carrier delivering letters. My gaze fell on the kitchen table, where a stack of unpaid bills lay. Before, I would have tackled them immediately, afraid of letting my family down. Now, I could pay them whenever I wanted. I could go to the store and buy myself a new dress. Take that art class I'd always dreamed of, without worrying about anyone else's needs. For the first time in years, I was truly free from obligation, free from guilt, free from the constant need to sacrifice my own desires for the sake of others. I picked up my phone and dialed Lorraine's number. Remember you were talking about going to the mountains next month? I asked when she answered. I'd like to join you if the invitation still stands. Edith, I could hear the joy in her voice. Of course. I thought you wouldn't be able to because of, I can now. I smiled. I no longer have any obligations holding me back. After talking to Lorraine, I pulled out an old notebook and started making a list of things to do, places to go, dreams I'd always put off for later. Now it was my time. Edith Wembley's time, and I was going to make the most of it. The days that followed were quieter than I'd expected. I thought Garrett and Marissa would try to change my mind, but after Marissa's visit, there was only silence. No more calls, no more unannounced visits. Only Rebecca stopped by, and she and I silently agreed not to discuss the family drama. Tuesday morning greeted me with bright sunshine. I sipped my coffee on the veranda, flipping through a travel catalog. The trip to the mountains with Lorraine was set for next month, but why not dream bigger? I'd only seen Europe in pictures and movies. James had always wanted to show me Italy, the home of his ancestors. We'd saved for that trip, but when retirement came, his health wouldn't allow it. I lingered over photos of Rome, Florence, Venice, imagining myself there, camera in hand. No need to rush home to solve Garrett's next crisis. The doorbell interrupted my reverie. Lorraine stood on the doorstep, a large wicker basket in her arms. "Good morning, traveler," she grinned. Stepping inside, I brought croissants from the new French bakery and fresh gossip. We settled on the veranda. Lorraine poured coffee from her thermos, the croissants still warm. "How's your new free life going?" she asked. "Unaccustomed," I admitted. "Sometimes I wake up feeling like I've forgotten something important. Then I remember the only person I have to take care of is myself." Lorene nodded. "That's normal. You've been living for others for too long. Your body isn't used to the lack of stress yet." She grew serious. "I saw Marissa at the supermarket yesterday. She was buying canned goods and pasta no delicacies. She didn't look as flawless as usual." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "She didn't notice me and I didn't say hello. But it looks like they're having to tighten their belts." "Rightfully so," Lorene said, her voice fierce. "It's about time Garrett learned to stand on his own 2 feet. I smiled at her bluntness. Lorene always said what she thought, never sugarcoating. "Maybe that's why we've been friends so long." She nodded at the travel catalog. "What are you studying?" "I'm thinking about going to Italy," I said, sliding the catalog over. "James always wanted to show me Rome." "That's a great idea." "When?" "Maybe in the fall." "I still have to plan." "Why not sooner?" Lorene flipped through the pages. "June is perfect for Italy. Not too hot, but warm enough for walking." I hesitated. Before, there were always reasons to postpone helping the kids, being on call for another Garrett crisis, saving money for someone else's needs. Now, those reasons were gone. "You know, you're right," I said, a smile spreading across my face. "Why not?" "I'll call the agency today," Lorene beamed. "If you want company, I could come with you. Italy's been on my wish list for years." I smiled at her bluntness. Lorene always said what she thought, never sugarcoating. "Maybe that's why we've been friends so long." She nodded at the travel catalog. "What are you studying?" "I'm thinking about going to Italy," I said, sliding the catalog over. "James always wanted to show me Rome." "That's a great idea." "When?" "Maybe in the fall." "I still have to plan." "Why not sooner?" Lorene flipped through the pages. "June is perfect for Italy. Not too hot, but warm enough for walking." I hesitated. Before, there were always reasons to postpone helping the kids, being on call for another Garrett crisis, saving money for someone else's needs. Now, those reasons were gone. "You know, you're right," I said, a smile spreading across my face. "Why not?" "I'll call the agency today," Lorene beamed. "If you want company, I could come with you. Italy's been on my wish list for years." We spent the rest of the morning planning, laughing, dreaming. For the first time in a long time, I felt excited, anticipating something new, something just for me. When Lorene left, I called the travel agency and booked a consultation. Then, I pulled out an old atlas James had given me and began tracing the map of Italy, imagining myself in those sunlit places. The doorbell rang again. I opened it to find Toby, disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. "Grandma," he said, shifting awkwardly. "May I come in?" I stepped aside, letting him pass. He sat on the couch, rubbing his hands together nervously. "Would you like some tea?" I asked. "No, thanks." He shook his head. "Grandma, I need help." I sat across from him, calm. "What kind of help, Toby?" He took a deep breath. "Money, Grandma. I need money. My card's been blocked, the bank's demanding payment. I can't pay my rent, my car." His voice shook. "I'm totally screwed. Pardon the expression." I looked at my grandson, a grown man, but now just a lost child. Toby had always been spoiled, first by his parents, then by me. He'd never had to fight for anything. "How much do you owe the bank?" I asked. $7,000. He lowered his eyes. "Gotten a little carried away with the credit cards." "What did you spend it on?" He shrugged, not meeting my gaze. "Various things. A new cell phone, a trip to the coast, a couple of parties." I waited. Toby finally looked up. "Grandma, I know I haven't been very attentive. I haven't called much, haven't visited much. But I really love you, and I'm really asking you to help me now. I'll pay you back, I promise." I studied him, searching for sincerity. Toby could be charming when he needed something, a trait he'd inherited from Marissa. "You're 23. Toby, you've been working for almost 2 years. Why haven't you learned to handle your finances?" He looked embarrassed. "I don't know. I never really thought about it. I could always ask my parents. Or you." "Exactly. There was always someone to solve your problems. But you can't go on like this forever. Sooner or later, everyone has to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. He nodded, desperate. "Just help me this last time. I'll get an extra job, save money." I shook my head. "No, Toby, I'm not giving you any money." His face fell, stunned. "But Grandma, what am I supposed to do? What adults do when they're in trouble? Talk to the bank about restructuring your debt. Find an extra job. Cut back on expenses." He stared at me as if I were speaking a foreign language. "But it's so complicated." "Life is complicated," I said gently. "Especially when you have to take responsibility for your actions." He jumped up, anger and resentment flickering across his face. "So you're just leaving me after all these years of saying you love me?" "I love you, Toby. That's why I refuse to keep supporting your addiction to my money." "That's not love, it's codependency. And it's hurting you more than it's helping." He was almost shouting. "You're just getting back at us because of some fight with Dad." I stayed calm. "I just stopped being an ATM for my family. Stopped buying the love and respect that should be unconditional." He slumped back onto the couch, defeated. I softened my tone. "I won't give you money, but I can offer you something else. My friend Francis Whitaker is looking for a part-time assistant. It won't solve all your problems, but it's a start. If you want, I can talk to him." Toby looked surprised. "Would you? After everything I've said?" "You're my grandson, Toby. I love you no matter what. But my love will no longer be expressed in checks and credit cards." He was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll give it a try." "Thank you, Grandma." When Toby left, I felt a strange mix of sadness and satisfaction. Maybe this was the first step toward a healthier relationship, or maybe it was just another manipulation. Time would tell. That same evening, Rebecca arrived. Unlike her brother, she looked collected and calm. "I met Toby on the way over," she said as she helped me make dinner. "He was kind of quiet. We talked about money and responsibility. I chopped vegetables for the salad. I wasn't sure he took it well." Rebecca nodded, stirring the dressing. "It's good for him to grow up a little. Toby's always had it too easy." I glanced at my granddaughter. She and Toby were the same age, but so different. Rebecca was always more independent, more mature. how are things at home?" I asked cautiously. Rebecca sighed. "Honestly, not great. My parents fight all the time. Mom blames Dad for not being able to convince you to return the financing. Dad says she's the one who ruined it with her snobbery. I'm sorry you have to be at the center of this conflict." I put my hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," she smiled weakly. "I've known for a long time that their relationship wasn't very healthy. They were together mostly for status and comfort. When both of those things were threatened," she trailed off, but I understood. Garrett and Marissa's marriage had always seemed odd. My soft, compliant son and his ambitious, overbearing wife. Now that the financial cushion is gone, all the cracks in their relationship have become obvious. They're selling Mom's car, the SUV you gave her the money for last year. And they're looking to refinance the mortgage. I nodded, saying nothing. Part of me felt a prick of conscience. I didn't want my son to suffer, but another part realized it was a necessary lesson. "You know, Grandma," Rebecca said, sitting down at the table, "I want you to know that I support your decision." I looked at her in surprise. "You do?" She nodded. "I've seen them use you for a long time. Especially Mom. I tried to talk to Dad, but he always made excuses." I sat down next to her, unexpectedly touched. "Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot to me." She took my hand. "I just want you to be happy. You've taken care of all of us for so many years. It's time to think about yourself." We ate dinner, talking about her work, my plans to go to Italy, and the books we'd recently read. Just a normal conversation, no asking, no manipulation, no tension. This, I thought, is what a family relationship should look like. When Rebecca was about to leave, she hugged me tighter than usual. "You know I'll always be there for you, right? No matter what happens between you and your parents." "I know, honey." I stroked her cheek. "And I'll always be there for you, not because I have to, but because I want to." After Rebecca left, I sat in silence for a long time, thinking about the strange twists of family. Of all my family, it was my granddaughter who was the most understanding, the most mature. Maybe that was the point, to pass on not just property, but values, principles, the ability to truly love and care. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Garrett's number. I hesitated, then answered. "Yes, Garrett?" "Mom." His voice was strained. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. As a family." "About what?" I asked calmly. "About the situation we're in. About how we could fix it." I sighed. "Garrett, I told you and Marissa my decision is final." "Mom, please," he pleaded. "At least hear us out." "We're ready to compromise." I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to continue this endless circle, but another part, the wiser, calmer part, knew that a complete break wouldn't make me happy. "Okay, Garrett, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. My place." "Thank you, Mom." The relief in his voice was almost palpable. "We'll be there, all of us." I hung up and looked out the window. The evening sky was painted in pink and gold. I thought about tomorrow's meeting, another round of family negotiations. But this time, I had new rules. I woke early, even though the family meeting wasn't until 2. Despite my outward calm, I could feel the tension building inside me. Something told me today's conversation would be different. This time, I wouldn't be swayed by guilt or old habits. To steady my nerves, I spent the morning in the garden. There's something peaceful about working with the earth, seeing your efforts turn into flowers and fruit. By noon, I'd finished weeding and watering, showered, and prepared a light lunch. I looked at the clock, still plenty of time to gather my thoughts.